doing that, I would like to introduce you to the course and tell you about the computer setup that we need to, begin with this, and talk a little bit more about the web services and the type of web services. So this is the course structure that we'll be following up for the first two modules. That is, first we'll be introducing, then I'll take you through the walkthrough of the use case that we'll be using for this entire course. We'll be setting up a demo. We'll be setting up your computer, and for that I'll be sharing with you the document. I will also give you a walkthrough on this. So there are a few things that we would need to make your system compliant with the tools that we'll be using. The fourth thing is we'll be doing a little bit of introduction on the APIs and web services. So our initial topics would be based upon the web services, and in order to implement or develop that, we'll take a little bit on web services and the APIs. Then we'll be taking the introductory topics on SOAP and RESTful web services for today. And I am planning to cover up the entire Mulesoft course in a couple of weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, depending upon the progress of how we do in the class. And I believe more on the hands-on experience than to, just talk about the topic, because that is exactly how I learned Mulesoft. So I hope you guys are comfortable with hands-on, and we will be having few projects created at the end of each class, and you will be developing that, and we'll go through it the next session. So every session we'll be creating projects, and we will be reviewing that for any issues or anything like that. So are you guys good with the structure of the training, or is there anything else that you'd like to add?
That's good actually. So
Okay.
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
Are you,
So
Sneha, are you
yes.
sharing any screen and doing, or you are just speaking for currently?
Okay, I think I did not share my screen. Farhan, is there an extension to this? Do I have to add that extension?
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
Okay, great. So this was the course structure that I was talking about.
Okay.
So I'm actually planning to cover up till the 6th topic, since it's just the introductory class. And next class, if we have, then I'll be taking on the hands-on with web services, which is the REST web service, and we'll be developing RAMLs and implementing the code on our studio. So that is the plan. And this is the document that I was talking about to set up your computer. This is the first thing that we would need before we get started.
Okay.
So this, I will be sharing it with you, and I'll also give you a walkthrough on this. So okay, so introducing the course. There are basically 5 to 6 points that we'll be covering. So the first thing is that we will use Anypoint platform to take an API through its complete life cycle, which includes we will be designing the API, we will be building the API, deploying, managing, and then govern the API. So we will use Anypoint platform, which is nothing but this platform. Okay. And the second thing is we will use Anypoint Studio to build and debug integrations and the API implementation. So the studio is also something which I will be showing it to you. So that is the Eclipse based platform or environment on which you will be writing or implementing your integrations. It's exactly like Eclipse, how you work on Eclipse. It's a tool. So, and the third thing is we will connect, while doing all these things, we will be connecting to a lot of other systems, such as databases, files, web services, or any other SaaS application, or Twitter or Facebook, or any sort of third-party application. So we will be connecting with them, and we will be doing exchange of data, transformation, all of those things while we implement the integrations. we will also add a lot of application logic and handle errors as well. So there will be a lot of error scenarios that we'll come across. So we'll be handling that as well. And we will also structure the applications to, facilitate the development and eventually, deploy the application. So these are the basic things that we will be covering up. I know it wouldn't make much sense to you right now, but like this is like the overview of what we will be doing throughout our course. So before going to the use case of the program, let me give you a quick heads up on what we will be needing up to set up our computer. The first thing is that we need JDK 1.8, which should be also included in your path environment variable. So do you guys have JDK 1.8? 1.8
Yeah.
because we need 1.8 or higher version to run Studio. So Naveen, you and
I
Bhaskar.
don't have. I
Yeah.
don't have.
Okay, so that's not an issue. What you can do is you will have
Mhm.
this URL here and you can just go ahead and download it. Now,
Okay. That's good.
one thing to note is if you have a 64-bit version or 32-bit. So this should be compliant with your Anypoint Studio version. So whatever you download, 32 or 62, make sure that that Anypoint Studio that we download should be of the same bit version.
Okay. Yeah.
That is one thing that you need. The second thing is make sure that your Anypoint Studio starts successfully. Now, in order to do that, we have a URL. So you'll have to download a Studio environment where we will be
Mhm.
working on. So this is the URL. Let me just go ahead and open this up for you. So you'll have to create a account here. This will be a 30-day free trial. After that, you can just, create another one. It's fine. It usually doesn't expire.
Mhm.
So right now I've created it already, but I'm going to show you the options that come up later.
Okay.
Sneha, I didn't get you. Means for 30 days it will be free. After that, what we have
Yeah.
to do?
So if it expires, you can just create another account. Usually it doesn't. So for me, I have been using it for like, I think 2.5 years. It hasn't expired yet.
Okay.
So you can just create, and if it does expire, then we can download it again. Just create an account and download it. It should not actually. So I think during the duration of the class, like if you are like if you're downloading it now, it should like at least last for a month, at least
Mhm.
till the duration of the class. Okay, so we have three options here. Now, if you have a Windows, go ahead and click on Windows, and then you'll get an option of 64-bit or 32-bit. So accordingly, just download it and you'll get a zip file downloaded. It's as simple as that. Okay, so this is the URL. Now, if I open up the studio, so you have to make sure that it starts. What happens is after downloading, it has some dependency on the JDK and it does not. So make sure that it starts before the class, and then you'll have to pick up a workspace like how you do in Eclipse, right? So you will have
Mhm.
to choose a workspace where you want all the projects to be stored. So just go ahead and pick any location and click on OK. Now this is your studio where you'll be writing all your applications. Okay, so meanwhile this starts, you must have heard about Postman, right? Not sure,
Yes.
but okay. So you will need that as well to interact with our web services or make REST calls. So that is one thing that you need. That is also mentioned in the document, so you can take a look there. And apart from this, you will have to create an active platform, Anypoint platform account. So Anypoint platform account, by that I mean here, this is the URL. So you can just go ahead and sign up for one.
What is
Okay, so
this?
So here you will be able to deploy your application. So this you can open through your browser. Now, in simple language, like you'll be developing your code on this Anypoint platform on the studio, right? And you can use platform to deploy your application and run it on the server. So
Okay.
that can be accessible anywhere. That is like the simplest explanation for that. So whatever you develop here, you can deploy it on your platform and make it run. So you can just put a scheduler and host it, and all those things can be done on the platform. So these applications can be accessible anywhere. So
So
that makes it
one
really easy. Yeah.
yeah, one question. Means in production environment, if you consider, then they do use any is platform to deploy applications?
Yeah, so all the applications are deployed, whether it be in all the environments, sorry. So production, be it UAT, all the environment, we deploy this application here, and there are different uh, restrictions or authentications provided based on the environment. So
Okay.
that is the difference we have. So there is a lot more than just seeing this platform. There's a lot of back-end things that are supported in this platform. You can keep different configuration files based on different environment and provide authentication and security. So that is taken
Okay.
care by our application that we deploy. So we take care of that in the application itself. We will add all the security and all those things while deploying the application. So that's how it
Okay.
is taking care of the different environment and the security. So for the Anypoint platform, here the first one, you can sign up, and this is the URL, and you can just sign up and have a free account. Apart from that, once you have that, I can show that to you. You can also see when your account is expiring. So I will just quickly log in to Anypoint platform. This is the home page, like look something like this. So you'll have a tab on the left side. Just okay, just a second. This is a different account that I've logged in. Let me quickly log into my demo account. You can create multiple accounts even if it expires. It's absolutely fine. So do you see, this is the home page for the platform. There are multiple tabs here. So we'll just go on to access management for now on the left side. And we have subscription. Under subscription, we have the Runtime Manager. So you can see the expiration date here. And this is a trial account. So all these details you can see here, and we will be exploring the platform later on when we come to the deployment of the applications. For now, we can just have an account ready. Okay, so till now, are we good?
Yep.
Okay. Now, the next thing is a Salesforce account. So have you guys heard of Salesforce? Customer relationship
No.
management.
Yeah.
Okay. So like how we have Facebook, right? And Twitter. So we have an application called as Salesforce, which usually deals with the handling of account information, or rather the customer details. So let me give you a quick scenario so that you'll understand why we actually need Salesforce. So if you're trying to make an application, suppose an application like Amazon, where you'll be placing an order and getting home delivery and all those things. So for that, the first step is to create an account, right? So the customer
Yeah.
needs to create an account, then place an order. Now that order goes into your cart, they check for the fulfillment, and all these procedures happen before the product actually gets delivered to your door, right? So when in Mulesoft, when you work on like real-time projects, I know that you will be able to relate it because you guys have experience on working. So what will happen is, when you make application of such large scale, you will need multiple applications to handle different modules or pieces of your entire application. So one such piece would be handling the customers, right? Apart from creating the bills or placing orders, there are different applications which come together to make a big application. So in order to take care of the customer section, we have something called as the Salesforce. Now Salesforce is something that usually comes into picture to handle the customer when you make such applications. Right now, we would want to interact with some third party while we do the development. Now, I have chosen Salesforce because there's something that usually comes up a lot, and it's like really in a boom in the market, Salesforce. So we will be working with Salesforce, and in order to do that, we will create an account and we'll get a security token. Okay, so this is just a third application that we will be using to interact, which handles customer accounts.
Okay.
Okay, so in order to make our API calls to Salesforce, we will need the security token. So that is one thing that we will be needing while we go through our applications. So in order to do that, we have this fourth point here. This is the URL. Okay. So first you need to sign up for the account. Okay. Now, since I've already signed up, I will show you the portal page. There'll be a lot of verification, OTP and all those things needed. And you will be sent your username through the email. Once you do that, just log into Salesforce account and go to your developers portal. I think you will be redirected to it. And this is a very easy step, just to create an account and go to your login. Once you log in, you'll get a page something like this. Okay. So once your account is created, hold on, the username is being sent on your Gmail account. So this is not the same username as your email account. This is something which Salesforce creates and sends it to you. So just log in on the account, and I will add this URL to the document if needed, but it should redirect you to this URL. So this is your Salesforce homepage. This is an application. Okay. Now click on this, go to settings. And there's an option at the left side, if you scroll down, reset my security token. Okay. So just click on reset security token, and the token will be sent to you through on your email account. So it will be something like this. Okay. Now this is the token that we will need to use to make API calls. So we need this as well. So your login credentials as well as the security token. These are the two needs from this account. So are we good on this?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me quickly go through the course use case. So I'll just give you a quick example of the use case that we will be taking up in this course. So basically, we will have an airport, right, which will have multiple flights to different locations. And every airport will have different airlines in their terminals. So for now, we'll consider 3 airlines at that particular airport. Okay, now the first goal of goal of our course would be to build an application which has all the flight information, which basically acts as a flight information system. Okay, so we will be building an API which will hold the details of the entire flight to and fro information. So like how we have Make My Trip now, right? So something like that, which will hold the details of the basically the flight information details. Now, these flight information details will hold the account system as well, right? The customer details will be there. So for that, we will be using Salesforce. So does the first goal make sense, that we will try to build an API to hold the flight information system?
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Bhaskar? Was that Naveen or Bhaskar?
It's Bhaskar.
Okay. And Naveen?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So in this, basically, this is the first goal where we'll be building an API. Now, considering API, I'd rather say RESTful API. So now it's fine if it doesn't make sense now. Or are you guys aware of REST and SOAP web services?
Yeah, I do.
So that's Naveen. How about you, Bhaskar? Sorry?
I do have some concept of that. I have not worked, but I have little knowledge on this.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine. So we will be taking in depth the RESTful services, the characteristics, and how to go about it. But for now, let's just understand that we will be first building up our API. In that, we will have 4 things. We will look at how we connect with the API, how we do the API connectivity. The second thing is to design the API. Third thing is to build the API. Fourth is to deploy and manage the API. So this will be your first part. Now the second goal is to expose this API, right? Now, to say, under the second goal, build the API which will expose all these flight services, and we will reuse the service that we have built in the first part. Okay. Now, in this part, we will be building a more complex API implementation, which will give us the exposure to a lot of development concepts as well. Okay.
Okay.
Now, in this, we will also cover up accessing and modifying mule messages. Okay. So there are mule messages that go through the entire application, which we will look into later, but we will be covering this mule message accessing and modifying it. We will structure our mule applications. We will consume web services. So we will use already built web services in our application. So consuming web services is more like interacting with them. We will also handle errors and will control message flows. And we will finally write data weave expressions, which is nothing but data transformation. Okay. And in the third part of the course for this use case, we will look at a more traditional integration use case, as in we will have 2 systems. One is Salesforce, the other one will be accounts. Okay. And we will try to provide synchronization between these 2 systems, as in sync data from one system to the other. So we will try to sync data. So let me give you a real-time example for this. Now, suppose Facebook and Twitter both have customer accounts created, or let's not take Twitter, let's take Facebook and Instagram. Okay. So what happens is, suppose you want to send all the details, or now Instagram wants all the account details of Facebook. Okay. Now what will happen is, how customers are getting stored in Facebook, it might be different from how customers are getting stored in Instagram, right? In Facebook, it might be called as customers. In Instagram, it will be called as users. So now
Yes.
Facebook wants to send data to Instagram. Now, in order to do that, this customer name has to be in sync with the username, right? Whatever is there under customer has to go and sit on the user tab, right? Now, in order to do that, first we have to connect with Facebook. We have to pull all the data that is there. Now, pull all the data as in pull only the customer data. So now only the relevant data needs to be pulled out, right? Now, what will happen is, you pull out all the details from Facebook and you will do data transformation in order to make this customer map to or sync to the user's name in Instagram. Okay. Now in
Okay.
Facebook, the phone number of the customer might be stored in a field called as contact. However, on Instagram, it should be placed on phone. So these are the two different things that need to be in sync with each other. Now, in order to do that, we use data transformation. Whatever is there under customers come and sit on users. So we'll do a data mapping. It's also called as mapping. Okay, so we will do all those data transformation. Now, why are we doing that? We actually do that to make the target compliant with whatever we are sending. So the target should be in sync with the data that we are sending, because ultimately your target has to accept the data how it comes, right? So however the target is accepting the data, be it in an XML format or a JSON format, you need to change the data in that format, make it compliant for the target to receive it, and then connect with the target system and send the data. So it's as simple as that. Now in this third goal, we will actually try to connect with a lot of additional resources apart from web services. And we will be processing a large set of records. So this is how the application flow works. So did you guys understand this? Like, why do we need data transformation? This is a very basic example that we have to help understand why exactly we need data transformation.
Okay.
So Naveen, are you
Yeah,
good
I
with
do.
this?
I do.
Okay.
Even the data pose does the same thing, data transformation and integration of all those things. So, do you
Okay.
handle the security in this too?
Yes, yes. So whenever we actually, right now we are at a scale where the applications are running in production. So different now actually the users are using our application. So even if we get a small glitch, there is a huge issue. So we need to take care of all those things before it goes till production, because it will be actually available for the end users to use it. So entire security authentication, we have a lot of protocols in Mulesoft to take care of that. So
Gotcha.
everything will be taken care of before we deploy the applications. So I have two more topics for the day. Not sure how much time we have. Okay, introduction to APIs, SOAP, web services, and RESTful. So let me quickly cover up the APIs and web services. Okay, so okay, what exactly is an API? Is anyone willing to explain it in their own words? What do you actually mean when you say API? Does anyone have any fair idea on what an API is, or it's like a term we always heard of it, but we never, went and looked into it?
No, API exactly implementation of some logics given which can be used directly whenever it is needed. We can consider
Okay,
it's called API. Even
okay,
if inside, if whatever methods are present in default lang package string class also we can call it as API, like two upper, two lower, whatever means it gives some logic, it's some implementation it is given, that is called API.
okay, which is correct. So basically, it will provide us the information of how to communicate with any other software component, right? So
Yes.
it'll also define the operation, the input, and the output, which means that it'll have the API that you have will have the operations that you need to call, the input that what you actually need to send, okay, to interact with the software, and the output that you will be expecting back to get from the call. And sometimes it also gives you the underlying data types. So an API
Yeah.
will hold all these three important things. Now it defines the functionalities independent of the implementation. It'll have all the functionality in it, like how you can call it, or what input to give, or what output are you expecting. And you can also, with the help of API, you can actually change what's going on behind the scenes or under the cover, like as in without changing how people can call your application, you can change the implementation. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the advantage of having an API, that you can change your implementation without letting people change how they call the application. Yeah. So does
Yeah.
this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So when people say API, right, they could be meaning or they could be referring to a lot of other things as well. There's a disturbance. Okay. Okay. So when people say API, they could be referring to a number of things. Okay. And sometimes they refer to an interface or a definition file to the API, right? It'll, when people say API, they actually mean a definition file or an interface. So it'll, that definition file will define what you can call or what you can send it or what you can get back. It's basically the API interface definition file. The second thing that people might mean when they say an API is a web service. Sometimes they are actually talking about the web service, which is the actual API implementation, on which you can make calls to, or the interface of that API implementation, right? So when you say an API, they can mean two different things. And apart from this, there's something called as the API proxy, right? So when people say API, they might actually be referring to the API proxy. Now in this, they are actually focusing on the idea of the API proxy. And this can be an application that controls access to your web service, right? So there is API proxy. So it's basically a layer that you provide on top of web service, saying that you have to interact with the API proxy only then, not directly to your web service, but you have to interact with your API proxy. Now this uses API gateway to restrict or control access to your main API. This is the API proxy. So when people say API, they might be meaning either of these three things. Okay. Now let's see what a web service is. So are you guys aware of web services?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So should we go ahead and skip this one, like the basic description?
Mhm.
Okay, let me give you a quick one. It's basically when different software systems, you need to exchange data with each other, but they have different protocols or platforms or languages. Then what we do is web service helps us communicate between these two software systems to basically exchange data. Okay, now there are a lot of rules of communication that we need to take care of, how one system can interact with the other one, right? So basically what data format to use and which specific parameters are to be sent in the data request, and what would be the structure of the request that you send. So there are few rules of communication that we have to take care while communicating with different software systems. So
Yeah.
we will be taking that up one by one while we write a RAML, which is nothing but a documentation for a REST web service. We will be taking that up. Now, let me quickly come to the two main types of web services that we will be dealing with. So this was all the background on how we are going to do things and all about that. But now, right now, we'll be starting on to the real hands-on or implementation of the RESTful web service. But before doing that, let me give you a quick background on the main types of web services. Okay, so basically there are two main types that we'll be dealing with. One is the SOAP web service, the other one is the RESTful web service. So have you guys heard of SOAP web service or got a chance to look at the Wsdl or anything like that?
Yeah, I have
Yeah,
heard, but I have not used it.
Okay. So our SOAP web service, you can say that it's a more traditional or more complex type, whereas the RESTful is more modern and simple type of web service. that we have. And in SOAP, what we have is that the communication rules are defined in an XML based Wsdl file. Okay, now I'll show you what a Wsdl file looks like. So this is the Wsdl file. So what do I mean by saying that? When I say that, communication rules are defined in this file. So when you're trying to interact with a web service, rather a SOAP web service, you will take the help of this Wsdl to interact with it. So all the details that are needed to interact with the SOAP web service are mentioned in this Wsdl document. Okay, now do you see a find flight response, list all flights? What are these? These are the operations that are available on that web service. Okay, this is the sample Wsdl, how it looks like. And whenever we're trying to interact with the web service, we will use this particular Wsdl. Now, the second thing that we have on RESTful is that it uses an existing HTTP communication protocol to talk to each other, to allow different systems to talk to one another. So we'll dive a little bit deeper into the SOAP web services. Okay, and Wsdl, do you guys know what Wsdl stands for? WSDL?
Web services definition language.
Okay, so I think you guys are aware of it. So let me show
Yeah, I
you
worked
a
on
SOAP.
Wsdl and SOAPs.
Okay, so have you looked into SOAP UI and got a chance to include the Wsdl and hit and get a response from the web service?
Yes.
Okay, and how about you? So was that Naveen or Bhaskar?
No, I
It's
have not
not.
worked in that.
Okay, you haven't. Okay,
No.
so basically, this is your, so till now it's clear, right? Wsdl, this is the document which holds the details on web services. Is it
Yes,
fine till
yes.
now?
Yeah.
Okay, so now what will happen is, now if you see this document, don't you feel it's a little difficult for humans to read it, and it's mostly machine processable? It
Yes.
looks like a machine can read it, right? And for us it is like, okay, I can see the operations, but doesn't really make sense to me. So what I'll do is, this Wsdl location, there is a tool called as SOAP UI, okay, which we will be installing. So once you have that tool, just go and click on SOAP here, give the Wsdl location. Now this Wsdl is being hosted at this location, right? So it's accessible. When you access this location, this Wsdl comes up on your browser. Okay, even if you access it, you will be able to see this Wsdl, right? So I'll just give the Wsdl location and the project name. Either you can give or it comes in automatically. Just click on OK, right? And a project is created here. If you see, this new one got created here, right? Now, why do we use SOAP is that it reads the Wsdl, it interprets it, and it'll create the SOAP request based on the Wsdl. Now, why would we need the SOAP request? Now, in order to talk to our web service, we need to send the request in a format in which the web service is accepting it, right? Like how we did for Facebook and Instagram. Send the data in which Instagram accepts it, right? So this Wsdl will help create the request in that format. Okay, now the request has been created. I'll quickly go and see. So let me close all the other projects here. Now this is one project. Okay, so we have this ticket service SOAP binding. Now under that we have two options: find flight, list all flight. Now under find flight, you see that there is a request option. So I opened this up. This destination was initially as question mark. So I just gave the destination as SFO because I know that this particular flight exists, just so that you understand. I will delete this part. So the left side is where you send the request. The right one is where you get a response. And this is the URL that you are hitting. So right now you're sending this request to this URL and you're getting a response from the actual web service. Okay. All we did is we created a SOAP project using the Wsdl URL. It is as simple as that. Okay. Now we hit this green arrow and we get a response. So this is the response. Now what does this response tell us? It got us all the flights that go to destination SFO. What is the request that we sent? This. What was the format in which we sent? We sent a SOAP envelope. What is the URL that we triggered? This is the URL that we sent the request in. And did we get a how many flights did we get in the response? 1, 2, 3. There are 3 details available. What is the operation that we triggered at? Find flights. So this is the operation, find flight. So till now, is it fine how we used SOAP to trigger a web service, create a request? So we did not really create a request here. We just included the Wsdl and the SOAP UI did the work for us, right? So this is exactly why we use the SOAP UI. So anything till now which you did not understand? Any example or?
No, it's clear, but I need to read more on SOAP to understand it better.
Correct. I can provide you the URL if you want. So
Okay.
let's not make it like complex. I know that there'll be a lot of effort needed from your end as well, but there are like few things that you need to keep at the top of your head, and I think it should be smooth enough. The rest of the things should be smooth enough. First thing is you need Wsdl to define SOAP.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have that one thing clear in our head, that it is nothing but a documentation saying that, you know, this is what my web service will be doing, or how this is how it will be interacting. Okay.
Yes.
Now once you have that Wsdl URL, you need nothing else to interact with the web service. You need not know anything else about the web service because you have the Wsdl in hand. Now once you have the Wsdl, you just need to, since it is little difficult to read, what we do is we'll use SOAP UI to create the sample request and request available. Now once you do that, you can manipulate your request and you can get multiple response.
Okay.
Okay, so this is
So
how
in here we will be creating a SOAP web services as well, right? Or we will
Yes.
be just using it.
So for now we just used it. Creating is, again, we can create it, but for that we need to create a Wsdl, we need to host it. Okay.
No, that I'm asking you. In later in the course content, we will be creating a web services as well, or we will be just okay.
No, we will be doing it right away in the next class only. So this was more of a theoretical, giving you background on the real-time situations, like how, you know, we have customers and all these things. But we will be creating web service. The first one would be RESTful because it is easy and it is simple to learn, and you'll get a grip of it once you do the rest. I think SOAP is like through and through. Although these are like entirely two different things when it comes to development. For REST, you will be writing a RAML.
Yes.
RESTful API modeling language. It is the simplest thing available. So
you are telling that basically we will be taking means developing all of whatever we are doing in RESTful web services, not SOAP, right? Or we will doing in both.
Both will be covering up both. Yeah, but first it will be REST.
Okay.
SOAP we'll see at a later point. SOAP is not something that you actually develop. Like I haven't come across, you know, development. I did it like a year ago. That was also a very small service that they asked us to expose. So usually they ask you for RESTful, reason being there are a lot of advantage for RESTful web services. SOAP is more restricted. Once you write the Wsdl, it's difficult to change it. REST, you can during the development phase, you can actually just keep on changing on the design when it comes to REST. It is that simple. Now this is what a REST.
But when you need more security at that time, at that point of context, you will be using SOAP only, right?
No, you can implement security on REST.
Okay. Okay, that we'll
So
see later.
yeah, so we use a lot of auth and basic authentication on all these stuff in REST as well. So this is one of the API documentation that I have on RAML, which is for the web services. So this is what we
Okay.
will be writing on Cloud Hub. It looks little complicated now when you see it, but once we start writing it, it's very simple.
Okay.
Okay. So Farhan, you still there?
Yeah, I am here, Sneha.
Okay. So I think I've covered few of the basic stuff today. So are you good till now?
Yeah, I'm good. So, we'll wrap up this session for now. And
Mhm.
one second.